What would you do if you had over 3,000 ounces of silver? If you don't recall, back in June of 2012, June 4th exactly, is when the episode aired, there was an episode of Pawn Stars where a customer brought Rick and the old man over 3,000 ounces of silver. In fact, it was 3,372 ounces. It was a lot of silver. And the question is, should that customer have kept it, or was it a good time for him to sell? Today we are going to look at all of the data to see about when that episode could have been recorded based on the spot price and what they offered to him, and we'll see what that silver would be worth today if he kept it over 11 years later. So let's get into it, but before we do, don't forget to like and subscribe and help YouTube recommend this video to others. My channel is sponsored by sdbullion.com. New customers can get their first order of gold or silver at spot by going to sdbullion.com/new. We can't sit here and watch the entire episode. That would be against copyright law. However, I can use little bits and clips of it and images to support what I am doing in this video. And as you can see, this video, by the way, aired on June 4th of 2012. And there is a link down below if you want to watch the entire thing. It was actually quite a good episode. But the customer brought in, you can see him stacking up a bunch of 100-ounce bars right there. And then as you can see right here, Rick is holding this huge 942-ounce bar. Additionally, we have two big bags of 90% silver. Now, the top of this 90% silver bag right here says that it has 1,000 face value. You can assume that the other bag is also 1,000 face value as well, because they look roughly around the same size, and that is typically how they are transported. Now, additionally, we can see that there are 6 bars on the counter here, but if you look in the background on the cart, you see where my cursor is? It looks like there are 4 more, 1, 2, 3, 4 more 100-ounce bars there. This becomes important when we're determining what Rick actually paid for the silver, because he does share a lot of very specific data as to what he's paying in this video. Let's fast forward a little bit and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So first off, this right here is a still. You can see right here, he has $110,901 sitting on his calculator. Now, we don't yet know exactly how much silver is here, but we do see that price, and you're going to see if you watch this episode, again, we can't watch the whole thing here, but you're going to see if you watch this episode that that's actually what he offers him right out of the gate, is that $110,901 for all of this. But of course, he has to take this 942-ounce bar, I should say, and test it, because with bars like this, as he says in the video, and he's 100% right, these can be filled with like lead or something else in the center that has a good mass, and you would actually have a lot less silver and some fake, you know, a real silver on the outside, but some non-silver in the center, meaning it's not truly 942 ounces of silver. But that number there is important, so just keep that in mind, and I'll show you what I mean.
You got 46,000 for the coins, 33,390 for these bars right here.
All right, so right here, remember earlier when I said there were 4 more bars on the cart? But he said $33,390 for those bars right there. So we can assume that given that there were 6 on the counter, 4 more on the cart, and that number seems to match something I'm going to show you in just a second, we can assume that he had exactly 10 100-ounce bars for exactly 1,000 ounces of silver in those big 100-ounce Engelhard bars that he was throwing up on the counter.
You got 46,000 for the coins.
And then right here, he says you have 46,000 for the coins. So that looks to me like 23 times face, because there were 2 1,000 count bags. So 23 times face per bag would be 23,000 per bag, or $46,000 for the 2 1,000 counters. And we can use that. So 23 times face. If you guys have not seen some of my past videos, doing math on 90% is actually quite easy. If you want to know exactly how much you are getting or buying your 90% silver for, you simply take the amount that they're selling for or offering you for years, and you multiply that number by 1.4. The reason for that is because there is 1 ounce of silver in every $1.40 of face value of dimes, quarters, and halves from 1964 and before. If you have 2 half dollars, that's not a full ounce, but if you have 2 half dollars and 4 dimes, that is 1 ounce of silver. So let's go ahead and do the math. So if we take 23 times 1.4, you can see we have $32.20 per ounce that is being offered for the 90% silver. Additionally, this is confirmed by looking at how much silver they actually had. So 3,372 ounces comes out to 1,430 ounces and 90%, 1,000 ounce in the 100 ounce bars, and 942.35 ounces of silver in the big one. I guess they'll keep the 0.35 ounces for themselves.
Here, 32.39
All right, so right here, 32.39 times, and he says
times 942 equals.
So that is 942. So 32.39 times 942. So that is what the weight of the big bar was. So he was paying him $32.39 per ounce for the huge 942 ounce bar, but he was paying him $33.39 an ounce for the 100 ounce bars. Additionally, as we already noted, he was paying $32.20 roughly for the 90% silver. So the big 942 ounce bar and the 90% silver, he was actually paying him back of spot. I mean, I'm assuming it was back of spot based on the fact that you would not want to pay spot price for a big 942 ounce odd weight bar that you just drill into, because you would not be able to sell that at retail. You would need to take that bar, you would need to melt it, refine it maybe, depending on if it's actually 999 or if it's like 995 or whatever, but you would need to melt it and turn it into retail sellable silver. It would be really hard to sell that silver in that form other than to a foundry or a wholesaler for sure. Whereas the 100 ounce bars, clearly you could sell those at retail right out of the gate. But the 90% silver, you could also sell at retail as well. And I don't necessarily remember exactly what 90% was doing back then as far as premium is concerned. So I can't unfortunately really speak to that. But again, to me, it sounds like he is paying back of spot for those 90%ers and for that big bar. Now, another thing is that we don't necessarily know exactly what spot was at the time. However, using this data and something that the old man said near the end of the video, we can actually determine that they were probably somewhere around 50 cents over for the 100 ounce bars to 50 cents back for the big 942 and the 90%. I'll show you what I mean. Listen to what the old man says right here.
You know, you're welcome to check around, but most people go $1 back on everything.
So right here, you'll hear what he's saying. So the old man says, you're welcome to check around, but most people go $1 back on everything. So that makes me assume that they are offering stronger than $1 back of spot, which is why I believe that probably what they were offering him was 50 cents back of spot. And keep in mind, this is pure speculation, but speculation based on what I've seen here. I assume that they're offering him 50 cents back of spot. So for example, let's say silver's $32.89. If they offered him 50 cents back, that would be $32.39, which is exactly what they offered him for the 942, and roughly what they offered him for the 90%, and then 50 cents above spot, which would be $33.39 for the big 100 ounce Engelhard bars. So that kind of makes sense. So based on everything I've heard here and what the old man just said, I do believe that spot price on the day that they recorded this video was sitting right at $32.89 per ounce. So let's go ahead and take a look at a spot price chart and see if we can figure out roughly when this was recorded. So now that we have our spot price chart open, we can zoom in here and you can see we are on June 4th right now. If we look at the day that this episode aired, which was June 4th of 2012, you can see spot was $28.25. You'll notice that number is significantly lower than what they were offering him for his silver at the time. So we know that it was recorded before it aired, which that's just obvious because I need time to edit, but you get my point. But if we were to kind of look at historical data here and assume that I was right, that spot was probably $32.89, we can go, and it's not going to be exactly on here, so we're not going to be able to get the exact day. But if we keep going back to where it was right here, we have silver sitting at $33 an ounce. As you know, silver fluctuates up and down, but the average price for the day ended up on April 2nd at $33 an ounce. That is a day that this could have been recorded. We also can look right here on March 26th, $32.84. This is a day that this could have been recorded as well. We also look at March 19th. This is another day that this could have been recorded. Once you get a little bit farther back than that, maybe except for March 6th, but once you get before March, silver price was too high, and it was really way too steep here to really determine if it would have been in January because it was really jumping right here. So most likely, and again, this is just pure speculation, but most likely this episode was recorded somewhere between March and April of 2012 based on these numbers right here. Now, the next question you're probably wondering is, should this guy have sold it or should he have waited? Well, it looks pretty clear just based on when he sold versus when the episode aired. that it was a good time for him to sell. Of course, we can zoom out on the chart here and see that it did go back up later in 2012, but if he wouldn't have sold it by, you know, roughly the beginning of 2013, he would have never gotten as much as he did that day. I mean, even today, even during the whole silver squeeze, even during COVID, you know, when the silver price went back up after everything crashed, we have not gotten anywhere close to the 32 that he got for that day. So yes, he absolutely did choose a very good time to sell. And in fact, if he would have sold that silver today with spot price at 24.06, and we'll find out, we'll take 24.06, just let's assume, let's just use 24.06 as a baseline number here. Let's multiply that by 3,372 ounces of silver. He would have been offered around $81,000. And if you subtract the $111,000 that he actually got that day, the difference would have been almost $30,000 that he would have lost if he would have waited to sell it today instead of selling it back when he sold it to Rick and the old man. So yeah, he picked a really good time to sell. Was it the top of the market? Could he have got higher? Absolutely. But it is very unlikely for you to hit the top of the market. So in my opinion, he sold at a really good time. And honestly, in my opinion, Rick and the old man were very fair with him. I know Pawn Stars gets a lot of bad publicity for making low offers on things that they could have offered more for, but when it comes to silver and gold, they were incredibly fair. I would love to know what you think though. So do me a favor, leave a comment down below. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out this video above if you haven't seen it yet, and we'll see you in the very next video. Have a great rest of your day.